All right, the transfer portal is officially closed. We talk about how good of a job or bad of a job Shane Beamer and the staff did in the portal window that just opened and is now closed. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. I hope all of you had a fantastic Christmas. I haven't talked to you since Christmas Eve, unless you listen to some of the shows afterwards. Either way, I appreciate you joining us and making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now, the NFL playoffs are almost here. What is more fun than having a little bit of a wager and some fun on the outcome of each game? It's not too late to get in on the regular season action, even though the playoffs haven't started, with FanDuel, because right now, if you are a new customer, you sign up, you can finish the season strong with $250 in free bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We got a good episode today, I think. I'm pretty biased, though. Hope all of you, like I said, had a great Christmas, and I appreciate you guys watching the show about Lenoris. Had a really interesting conversation with one member of the staff about how that whole thing went down. And it was really, really cool to see just the inner workings of what this staff was able to do. It's a lot of the stuff that we're going to get to today as well, because it's December 28th as I record this, which means the portal window is closing. And I want to talk about the grade I would give the staff over their first 2 weeks of the portal, or a little over 3 weeks of the portal being open. Now, remember, the portal is not closed for good until spring. It is just closed for now until they come back and have, I think if you're in a bowl game, it reopens for 5 more days. I don't know. Honestly, I will look into it. I know I brought it up on the podcast before, the exact windows and times and all that kind of stuff. It's very confusing. I'm still in that lull of post-Christmas before New Year's week, where I don't know if it's Thursday or February. I think a lot of you can probably relate to that. But let's get into today's show. First and foremost, I want to talk about some of the recent gets you have from the portal. 2 players after we recorded our last podcast. The last podcast we talked about Aaron Nolan and why he would join. It seemed to be very upset. A lot of Clemson fans, a lot of rivals, very upset. This whole concept of building quarterback depth or depth in general is a lost concept apparently on fan bases as to why someone would transfer into South Carolina to be a backup if they were already a backup somewhere else. It's almost like quarterback depth is a really important thing, and there's only so many starting jobs you can be in. That being said, phenomenal job by the staff there going to get a kid like Aaron Nolan. I know that some of the staff already previously had worked with him or recruited him or been involved with his recruitment at other locations before they got here. Tremendous job to work those relationships and get him. But since then, there's been 2 other players that have also committed. Sean Murphy, who actually committed the same day we'd started recorded, kid that transferred from Florida State, was also at Alabama before that. And then Rodney Newsom Jr., somebody we'll talk a little bit more in depth about, from Western Kentucky. Interior offensive lineman, which, as I've said repeatedly, had to be your first and most prioritized unit to go attack in the portal. I know that there's some good players on this current roster. I know you have some good guys coming back, but here's the thing I keep talking about. It's a number that I've thrown out multiple times, and you guys are probably already tired of me saying it, but 93.5% of your overall snaps, the production you had from guard to guard, center, guard, 93.5% of those snaps are gone. So you have to replace some guys. And what they have done in the portal, it seems like it seems to be the what's the word I'm looking for here, guys? It's not motto. It's just, the word I'm looking for is the focus, the priority. I don't know. I'm not good with words today, or in general, I guess. But the focus and MO, if you will, of the staff when it comes to that position specifically is, let's go get some veteran guys, experienced guys. And that's been the case really for a lot of positions, but offensive line especially. And you see this not just in South Carolina, you see it all over the country at several different places, because it's one thing to bring in a great recruit on the offensive line, develop them, have them be in the program for a couple of years and see where they're at. Games are won and lost in the trenches. If there's two things I hate in this world, or three things I hate in this world: terrorism, people that like yellow starbursts, and cliches. But I'm going to use the cliche here. Games in the SEC especially are won and lost in the trenches, and everyone knows that. So to go into a season unproven on either side of the ball, and you've lost a lot of production at both of those units, you have to figure out a way to replace it, not only with good talent, but with veteran, experienced players. And that's exactly what they got in Rodney Newsom. Rodney Newsom is a kid from Western Kentucky. He played over 500, I think it's 500 or 550 snaps this past season. That alone is something I think that is I don't know if it's an iron sharpens iron type thing when you bring him into the offensive line room, or when you compete in spring camp and then in fall camp next year. But either way, you are bringing somebody into the program that at least has experience at the D1 level, at the FBS level, and can go out there and compete from day one, right? Like spent 2 years there. I think he was from Memphis before that. Here, we'll bring it up on the safe side so we don't mess this up. But it's a kid that, he went to a junior college, Wamba, then Memphis, and then Western Kentucky. He came out as a recruit, right? As a recruit, he was a part of, let's see here. How am I drawing a blank on this? It's only showing as JUCO. He came out as a JUCO, so that means he at least has one season there, another at Memphis, and then because the community college is JUCO, yeah. It's not like a prep school. Like you used to have like a Hargrave or Georgia Military College where they got the Brinkley brothers, Casper and Jasper. I'm dating myself here. But that's a kid that has been in college for, I don't know, quite some time, at least 4 years, 3-4 years. So you have a grown-ass man that is going to come in and compete and also raise the level of competition and experience in that room. Like, again, it's one thing to have good guys that you can hope that you can develop and good recruits that you hope pan out to what their stars were in high school. Josiah Thompson is not moving off the starting position off left tackle, just flat out. Had a couple of bumpy moments, I think, his freshman year, but that is your left tackle. Your right tackle is also solidified. Like everything is fine, right? In those two positions. But interior is where you need to address. Not a guy that's on the left tackle that you can move in. You don't need that. You need guys that have experience and are veterans on those three positions, guard to guard. That is where you lose the most production. I talk about the linebacker position too. Linebacker position, bring in a guy like Sean Murphy, who was a former 4-star recruit, by all means, a good player, played at Alabama. He was part of, I think it was like 5 or 6 players overall that went to Florida State. But that is from last year from Alabama, not a great year for them for the most part. But like out of high school, you're talking about a guy that was 50, pretty consensus ranked. He's 6'2", 230. He has been in college now for at least 3 years. And again, I talked about this before. The linebacker position, you lost 200 total tackles, or like 199.5 total tackles from your 3 main guys, right? That's a lot of production to replace. All right, that is all for the first segment of the show. We're going to get into more of the players overall in the portal in the second, third part, and discuss the grades that I would give. Just spoiler alert, I think the staff's done a tremendous job. And I honestly stick around because I think the reason I would grade them so high has nothing to do with the guys in the portal. It's the guys they kept out of the portal as well. So Locked On Gamecocks continues next. All right, guys, welcome back into Locked On Gamecocks. Before we get into the grading talk, let's talk about money a little bit, okay? And I'm not going to ask you for any. I'm not Brian Kelly. I'm not the AD at Alabama. I'm not going to be begging you guys for money. I do think you should be joining Garnet Trust and donating to the NIL fund. We'll get into that another time. You know what's going to help you donate to the NIL fund? Our friends at Rocket Money. Listen, did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or thought that you forgot about? when you are paying for them twice. That happens to me multiple times. Our friends at Rocket Money can help you and make them so easy to track down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow into your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $5 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. I tell you what, cancel your unwanted subscriptions, reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. So let's get into it. Going over the transfer portal closing, this is where South Carolina currently stands, okay? You have eight total players that you brought in this window. I think that's fine. I don't think that's anything that's like you didn't think that they were going to go out and get too many more players than that. So it's not anything that's bad, good, bad, negative. From a grading standpoint, you went out and got 2 4-stars and then 6 3-stars. Now, speaking on that, there's no 5-stars in the portal. I'm speaking somewhat in generalities, but there's almost 0 5-stars that are ever in the portal. Most of the portal players at best are 4-stars, even if they are former 5-stars out of high school. Talking with my hands a lot today. Not sure why that is. My bad. That being said, you went out and got 2 4-star players, right? One of them being Aaron Nolan. We talked about him briefly. I think that is a massive, massive get. Outside of him, you had Jaylen Brown, the kid from Mizzou that is a rush end that is going to try to immediately fill the void of what you're going to lose with Kennard. The different positions that I thought personally were the biggest ones you need to go after: offensive line, linebacker, and then you could either say defensive line specifically on the interior or going out and getting a running back. Now, you had 8 players, right? Rodney Newsome, offensive lineman, we just talked about him. Sean Murphy, briefly talked about him from Florida State. Previously from that, Alabama, top 150 recruit. Aaron Nolan, that's a top 100 recruit. That was a 5-star in some services, mainly consists of 4. An interior offensive lineman from Wake Forest who immediately fits the part. Immediately, 6'2", 335, can step in right away. And then Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, a 3-star from A&M, interior defensive lineman, who, by the way, was a former 5-star. Okay, so you get 8 guys. You miss on Justice Haynes, which was clearly an NIL thing from what I was told. Like, he just got a better NIL package from Michigan. I don't blame him for going up to Michigan. Offensive line's probably a little bit, built differently. They're also way, way, way more focused on the run game there than they are here. Like, if you think about it from Justice Haynes' standpoint, you're going to go to a place that has a horrible, horrible reputation for throwing the football. Their MO is to run the ball. They're also going to be bringing in a true freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood, who by all means should be the savior of that program for they are trying to pay him. But they're going to run the football way more than him. I don't think it's a gutting loss when you miss out on Justice Haynes. The 8 guys you get a former 5-star, you get another former 5-star quarterback that's going to come in and learn and be your next guy. So you've set yourself up for success at the most important position, not only in football, but in all of sports from next year and beyond. Now, I don't know if Aaron Nolan ever drops back and takes a snap in meaningful competition at South Carolina. None of us know that. It's the portal era. You like to think he would, and I believe he will, but you just never know, right? But at the very least, what you have done has built a foundation in Columbia for what you're trying to build for the future. This year was about winning. Next year is about competing for a playoff spot, but also next year, here's what we're building 4 years. That is, like, you think about how difficult that is to do in this day and age of football, where you like instant success. There's coaches that are being fired at 3 years at a time. It used to be 4 was like the earliest. 5 made sense. You had a full 4 years of recruiting. But then it became the portal open, so it's like you better have an instant turnaround. 3 years. If you don't have success, you're out. You look at Auburn. Auburn got rid of a coach in less than 2 years, right? So I think that is all a really good job. I would give them in this portal window, I would say a B+ from just the guys they got into the portal. But overall, I would say an A- at the worst, because here's the thing. It's important the guys you got from the portal. What this staff did that was even more important was the people they limited and didn't allow to get in the portal. And I know that probably sounds hokey or cliche. Landing Lenore Sellers, landing Dylan Stewart, and I say landing like you get this huge commit from him. It sounds kind of odd because that's just the nature of this day and age of football. But you did. You got a commitment from them that is like the very actual essence of the word. How many times have you been frustrated seeing kids commit out of high school and then they decommit and go somewhere else, or they enter the portal or whatever? Those players committed by every essence of the word to play for this school and this program next year. And that's a big deal. Again, you talk about Darren Usher and the staff in general, but the director of player personnel, since he has stepped on campus, been a really big game changer at being able to create, not create necessarily, because I think a lot of this is from Shane Beamer, but being able to go out into the world of recruiting and say, hey, let me spread this message. Let me be like an evangelist for this culture that Shane Beamer is trying to build. Being able to spread this message and effectively communicate, create, and then also have people buy into the culture you're building is a big effing deal. It's a big deal. And with this generation of recruits in general, getting them to buy into something like this is a big deal. You look at the numbers. I understand what South Carolina lost. I believe it's 13 total players or 14 total players in the portal. There are several players that you would be like, oh no, almost every major SEC school has lost somebody that you're like, man, that sucks. I don't want to lose that guy. Georgia lost a player after the SEC championship or before the SEC championship, one of the two, of a player that had started 10 games and he entered the portal, or announced that he was going to enter the portal before it was even open. They had a championship game against Texas that Saturday. He was announcing he was going to be in the portal on Tuesday. Tennessee just lost Squirrel White. Squirrel White is a receiver that has played 35 career games at Tennessee. You just didn't have a ton of that at all from South Carolina. You just didn't. Vakari Swain committing to you and saying, yeah, I'm coming back. Nick Harbert, again, and I've said this over and over, and I hope that I've made it clear how big of a deal it is, because it's just not what's happening everywhere else. And to be honest, it's happening at very few places around the country in college football right now, where you have the bandwidth and the foresight to say, you know what, let's make sure it's September, it's early October. Let's make sure that we go out and make these guys a new deal, because that's the day and age of college football we're in. You have to deal with it. You can complain about it all you want. You can hate it all you want. That's where we are, right? I've said this in the offseason. The schedule's the schedule. There's no reason complaining about it. This is the area we're in, and there's no one that has done a better job, in my opinion. And again, I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back or have a humble brag. I've covered this conference for 7 or 8 years. I get to see all these insights from other schools and stuff outside of just South Carolina. Nobody was doing this. Nobody was doing this. And I guarantee you they would have been reporting it if they were, because they want to show hey, yeah, we're willing to play ball. We want to make sure our players know they're welcome and want to save. There's so many different programs that go through the portal and think of, you know what, I just hope that we don't lose those guys. Maybe we need to give them more playing time. Maybe we can promise them this, but we got to focus on the season, because that's really what you're being paid to do as a coach. That's what you're supposed to be being paid, is go win ball games. But there's so many extra things in college football now you have to pay attention to. The fact that this staff was able to keep all of this together, especially after losing a coordinator, especially after disappointment of not making the playoff or whatever, and you know other teams came calling. I know for a fact, you do too, but for a fact, other teams in this conference came calling for Lenore Sellers. And this staff worked their ass off to make sure he didn't go anywhere. Like A- at the least for what they were able to do to keep kids in, buy into the culture, buy into the program, and say, hey, listen, this is just the beginning. Like we are scratching the surface of what we can be. All right. Speaking of, I'm not going to get ahead of myself and scratch the surface of chasing any more potential comments, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not gonna jinx myself and try to do too much here because the internet, shockingly enough, is acting up. So we're gonna quit while we're ahead, or maybe while we're behind. I don't know. And we're gonna close out with this. Let me tell friends at FanDuel one more time, because listen, there's no better way to go into the new year than with a little bit of extra cash in your pocket. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too on the regular season action with FanDuel. Now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Also, it doesn't have to just be on games or the also bet on individual touchdowns and players and their props and all that kind of stuff. With FanDuel, there's so much going on. You can bet on any of it whenever you would like. Just visit FanDuel.com today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, guys, I appreciate you.